Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order, and Commissioner Lautner has agreed to do the pledge and lead the moment of silence.
I've been voluntold. And if you would all kindly please keep in mind Rich and Jen Zawicki this evening. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Present.
Chairman Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
Thank you. We have some minutes to approve if we want to. There are four sets of minutes available for approval. Anybody want to make a motion?
I would move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
And that was for all four sets, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yep. Yeah, all four sets.
We have a proposed agenda in front of us. There are no late additions. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda, and thank you very much. And it's now time for the administrator update.
Got three quick updates here. One, as many of you know already, we are undertaking and updating our 5-year master plan for the Leelanau County Parks and Recreation. We now have an online survey that's out there in the survey world, out there in the internet. There's a copy of this here, but at most places you go, and it'll also be in the Leelanau ticker. But if you go to here, this little bar, if you know how to use that on your phones, which I don't, but anyway, there's this website there. If you'll do that, we'd appreciate anybody and everybody take that community survey so we can know what you, the citizens of our county, or your county, would like to see in your three major parks as a future planning. So that's pretty important at this point. Another thing is that we've got 3 major bids that are out there that'll be back in our hands by your October meeting. I'm not for sure we'll have anything ready for October 1st, but we will have things hopefully ready for you by October 10th. One is the dam boardwalk project. The other one is our electrical panels that we are undertaking. Then the facade repair is also out there, and we hope to have bids back in. So those are 3 major projects that y'all have endorsed, and we're hoping to get them approved in such a way that maybe we can get some work done this fall, and if not, we'll get early spring. So however that
What was the
works.
third?
That was 3.
What was the third facade?
The
got the-
facade repair,
The facade.
the wall out there.
What were all 3?
Okay,
The dam.
dam boardwalk,
Oh, the dam boardwalk.
yeah, the Leelanau dam boardwalk, not the electrical panels that you approved, how we get
Okay, the
all those in
inspection.
here,
Gotcha.
and then the facade repair. Those are
Okay.
the 3 main ones.
All right.
On the Leelanau Tower, communication tower, I sent you all the memo that I received from the Leelanau Township planning planner as it relates to the issues that or the topics he felt needed to be responded to. He did say our application was administratively complete, not perfect, but complete. That's fine. And I'm working with our progressive AE to get the responses to his questions and concerns and to him by October the 10th, back to them by the 10th, so it could be on your October 24th Planning Commission agenda for further review. So now we've got some better progress moving forward, so I'll keep you up to date as that moves. So those are the 3 biggies, other than this War and Peace novel here that y'all get to go home and enjoy in the next 6 weeks. So there you go.
Thank you.
Any questions for the administrator? Okay, thank you to the public that's here tonight, and it's time for our first public comment. If anybody would like to speak to any item on the agenda, we'd be glad to hear you. Thank you. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Ross?
Yes, we have a county resident named Tina Green who owns Sutton's Bay Books in Sutton's Bay. And she noticed that we were still using, one-use water bottles. So she has kindly donated to the board water bottles that we can fill up at our little container out there that we approved and use time and time again. And it says to us, "Thank you for your community service." So I'm going to pass those out to everybody. So I really appreciate her being concerned about.
Can you put alcohol in?
You can put whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Debbie.
yeah, please pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Too late.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kama. Any other commissioner comments? I think it would be appropriate for us to, Commissioner Lautner did suggest that we give our thoughts about Jen, and also I think we do need to give our thoughts to the John Popa family. His services were last weekend. He's a loyal road commissioner and active in very, very many counties things. And also it's probably appropriate, this is the first meeting since 9/11, and we should give our thoughts and appreciation to the first responders and all those that did die. We're now at our consent agenda, and before we do that, Richard?
Okay. I noticed that last month, there was some concern about what the consent agenda is all about. Under our rules and under the consent agenda, it is a method by which the county can expedite some of its county business by grouping all the non-controversial items that they recommended for approval last week, to be taken care of. And not just because things were maybe on a 6-0 vote doesn't mean everything was non-controversial. There was other questions that had to be addressed, but they moved it forward. Understand non-controversial is usually a determination made by the staff when we're putting this together, but we get that drift. So everybody understands what this is. Yes, there's one vote, but when you vote on that consent calendar, you are really taking approval of 10 pieces of action. Tonight there'll be 10 pieces of action. So really you're approving 10 motions under one action. So to worry about, hey, I voted no on something. Well, tonight, if you approve the consent calendar, you just approved 10 action items. I just wanted you to understand that. Now, you don't have as many, but we used to love them because there would be times that we go through the whole alphabet on things that we had to vote for on the consent calendar. And it just, you don't want to drag those out. So, Melinda, so if you do this tonight, you will have approved 10 items, not one.
So go ahead and say it. I was correct. Say it.
Well, I never said you were incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
But you are correct. That's what you're doing.
Thank you.
That's exactly what you're doing.
So we do have 7 items on the consent
No, you
agenda.
have 10 because you got to count A and B as 2 separate items.
Okay, so we have 10 items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want anything removed? Could I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented, all 10 items.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
So I would like to add to your explanation that they were all thoroughly discussed last week.
Thoroughly discussed.
So,
But a couple of items that you'll see under action items, there was a question, and that's how we bring that back to you. That's why you moved it forward on a 6-0 vote. And a lot of times, okay, but no, you had questions, we know to bring it down here because we got to explain what that question was. Rest of it, you were fine with. You know. Now, it doesn't mean a week later you may not be, and that's okay, that's fair enough. That's your all's discernment to make once you get the packet in. So, anyway.
Okay, the first action item listed here is maintenance. You want to speak to that?
I can. On the maintenance here, I think the big question was, the last go-around, was dealt with the, I've got to find all my notes here again because you lose them, dealt with the thatching portion of it. And we did talk with Jerry about, why that's in there. But we don't really necessarily make the decision whether we need to do, staff does it or Jerry does it, unless True Green, who does a lot of our buildings or ground, as we're coming through and doing the maintenance on it, not just the mowing, but other things, they see an issue that we need to deal with, and by thatching, we take care of it, then that's when we'll come in with a consideration whether we should be doing it or not doing it. It's usually mean that something's dying underneath there or something needs to be done. Fortunately for us, we haven't had to do that, and it's only there as a resource if we need it. The good thing about this contract renewal, previously 2 years, that cost would have been $2,500. They would drop that price down to $1,500 if it has to be done. If everyone keeps doing the job like they're doing, we probably won't need it done again this year, so we're okay. Unless y'all see some major bare spots out there, but I haven't walked around yet, so take it from there.
Anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Elgar.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners policy on bid requirements be waived and approve a 1-year extension on the contract with Spinnaken Lawn and Irrigation for county campus lawn mowing at $520 per mow, adding optional spring cleanup at $84 an hour, and updating the optional dethatching rate to $1,500.
Support.
Discussion. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 6-0. We're now down to the contract. Kathy, do you have any additional information on that for us?
No, just what I sent you in an email. I think you asked what it would equate to a per hour rate, and Paul Jago, I quoted him directly from his email, and I sent you last night.
I'm sorry, I was on the wrong item.
Am I on the right? Yeah.
You're on the right item. I'm not.
Okay. So, per Paul Jarbo, as to the MACC agreement, all 3 counties that serve indigent defense, Grand Traverse, Antrim, and Lamont, we have separate monthly fee agreements with Jarbo's office. This was the fee arrangement with Grand Traverse and Antrim when we started the managed council work in February of 2020 and continued when Leelanau came on board in October of 21. All 3 counties have continued with the monthly fee arrangement agreements reviewed annually as opposed to hourly rate. And just to follow up, as an example, if the office billed hourly, say at a rate of $125 an hour, estimating an average of 10 hours per week for 52 weeks, that would be $65,000. And the Jarbo contract is renewing at $57,500. So with the 3 counties that they serve, we do have economy of scale. That helps, because if we had to hire one firm and they didn't do the other counties, it would probably be more money. And it has to be an attorney now who manages this grant. It cannot be, it used to be a staff person, a specialist here, but now it has to be an attorney. So we could not afford to have an attorney on staff for this because that attorney would need support in software and a space.
Any questions for Kathy? Anybody have a motion? Commissioner Elgar.
I would move to approve the contract with MIDC/MACC with Jarbo and approve those contracts with Jarbo and file.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 6-0.
Is it file? How do you say that?
Feel.
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 Thank you. I don't know.
Okay, now we have 6 items under administration.
Okay.
Kick that off.
The first item of the 6-month administration deals with a topic that was left over from last week, dealing with the salary arrangement for the deputy register of deeds and the deputy treasurer. My memo was, I haven't changed my thoughts on my memo as relates to this position. As I said last week, the factor is not so much as it relates to how much they work, but it's trying to make sure we have equity with other staff that we have in place. I gave all that to you last week. I have nothing more to add to it. I know you requested information. I think that was supplied to all of you late yesterday, so if you had time to read it. I read through most of it, but that was 2022, and I can't tell you 2022, where was I? I was trying to get out of being mayor. That's what I was trying to do. This is surreal. So I'll leave that into your hands. My recommendation has not changed at this point, so. But it's in your hands. I feel like I've completed what I was asked to complete. So.
Before we have discussion, the administrator has made a recommendation. Anybody want to make a motion?
Is there one here?
I don't see one.
Here it is. No?
I think a motion to support the administrator's recommendation presented at last week's executive committee. You don't have the exact
We
No,
numbers.
I think
Exact
that's
wording.
right, no.
What that would look like. We'd have to go back to,
Is that what you're making?
I'd like to, but I'd like to get the
Oh, just one
wording
second.
correct, and I need a little help.
Well, the motion from last week, I don't know if you've changed that, Michelle, but was moved to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to adjust the salary schedule of the Chief Deputy Treasurer and the Chief Deputy Register of Deeds as recommended by the interim county administrator be effective at the pay period beginning after approval.
So moved.
Did you just read off the EDS from last week?
Yes.
Okay, are you gonna say the salary amount in there?
Well, I just said as recommended, and I already had that in, I had it in the memo, so the salary, and you're doing the salary table, so the, whatever that is, so. I think it's $69,283.85.
Yes.
I will support.
So it's been moved and seconded. Let's have some discussion. Any discussion? I would remind us all that this treasurer has put a memo at our desk. He wasn't here to speak to us tonight.
And the Register of Deeds is at a conference, so.
Commissioner Ludner?
Well, our treasurer's memo doesn't have all of the costs on it, only the base wage. So if we read what we received last night, which is the information we were looking for, in '22, our chief deputy treasurer got a raise of $9,658. Our chief deputy register of deeds received a raise of $18,500. So, and these were the treasurer's recommendation at that time. So these two were already boosted. Those were some pretty significant raises at that time. And to add an additional, looking for, we got a lot of PDFs on this.
6,000.
Well, there's MERS, there's,
10% usually.
yeah, it's like another 10%
10%.
pay increase, and I just simply can't afford it. We're in September, we're just going into budget. And we're beginning to hear rumblings throughout the courthouse. Well, I want to be adjusted, and I want to be adjusted, and I want to be adjusted. And this is just a very, not only is it a slippery slope, but I really don't see the justification in it. Since they have already had some pretty significant pay raises already, just 2 years ago.
Commissioner Elgar?
Pretty much the only reason I supported it is because I guess I understand that it has to happen now because to be effective for the next cycle.
The rule we got from the attorney is it had to be during the current term before new chief deputies are seated or elected.
Appointed.
I'm not,
Appointed.
Appointed.
You can
Yeah.
raise a chief deputy's
Can't
wage.
lower.
You can, sorry, can you hear me now?
I can.
You can raise a chief deputy's wages or under sheriff, assistant prosecutor, and I will keep lumping them all together, at any time during the cycle. You can't reduce
Lower
them.
them.
You can't
You
lower.
can't reduce them, right.
And that would be under sheriff, chief assistant prosecutor, 3 chief deputies. They're all equal.
And that was the issue in 2022, when that board, not this board, but that board agreed that all chief deputies should be at the same level. But we had a legal opinion from our attorney saying that that would bring Jen's salary down because of her overtime wages of that year.
You
Correct?
made the decision to place them on salary.
And the administrator had recommended
And that,
the.
so that's where the big pay raises came in. They were placed on salary and went from, $17 an hour to $24 an hour at that point, some gigantic number. Now, and that made sense at that time, put them on salary, let's move forward. But now here we are 2 years later, and we're looking at basically a $10,000 raise the total is, the total for the two, which PDF has that in there?
That was the one that I sent.
Could I give you?
Okay, so we have so many. This one from Kathy has that one, all right.
I've handed the gavel over to the vice chair. I'd like to speak to it. I feel strongly about this recommendation. We have assistant directors, and we have chief deputies. And every chief deputy position is different, but it's the responsibility of the chief deputy to fill in for the deputy, or for the elected official if they're out or absent or resign or whatever. I don't see how we can justify paying different salaries to the same level of a job. In fact, if I read the Fair Employment Act, it does say that you ought to pay the same amount of money for the same job. And I think the job we're talking about is chief deputy. And I support the recommendation, which is a compromise, because I think we know that the chief deputy clerk spends a lot of time in our evening meetings. But I think this goes a long way at resolving an issue that's been a contentious issue in this building with the treasurer, with the register of deeds, and pressure on the clerk and pressure on the administrator. So I support the administrator's recommendation as a good compromise. And I think the 3 elected officials involved, I can't speak for Michelle, but I think the 3 elected officials involved support this recommendation as a fair compromise. But I'll let Michelle speak to that if she'd like to. Commissioner, oh no, I'll take my gavel back now. Yeah.
So could you spoke briefly to this last time. Can you just refresh your quick thoughts on it, Administrator Lewis? I mean, you dug through this. It was part of the things that was.
I dealt through it, and and basically the way I understood what took place in the basic level of 2022 is that you went through this process, and looking through a process you looked at, and it started, with, it was also the undersheriff, I understand, there was all that involved in making sure that you couldn't lower that position's salary during that term of office of the elected official, during that 4-year period. So, so that's where all that came in. But when you were looking at the others, one thing that was being looked at is that the deputy clerk, county clerk, knowing that she works evenings here, but I think some of the bigger times that individual, whoever it is, so just leave the names out of it. It's the position we're talking about. It could be me in there, that would be a huge mistake. But running elections, being there until maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. When you looked at all the overtime that was being paid, this is what her pay was being. And that's what you had to convert everyone to salary. That's what you had to do. You converted others too. And if you had to give somebody on a deputy that much of a raise, and something was terribly wrong going on at that time. Now, that's just my gut saying that. You raise someone $18,000, and what was going on underneath that? When I went in, as I told you back in July, you said, Richard, because I thought I was supposed to be working with the leadership of this board, which is your vice chair and your chair, to work with the other elected officials to come up with something to bring to you. You told me to take it on myself. Okay, I took it on. I could not justify anything, well, they're putting in more overtime, they're putting in anything else. But when I looked at our pay scales for a couple of positions that we have, i.e. where was I trying to look at here? I was looking at the assistant finance director, which, Kathy, nothing's supposed to happen to you until I'm gone. You understand it? You don't get to go nowhere until I'm gone, so you stick around. But that person has to step into the plate if he was at that level. They got to assume the full role until somebody else reappoints for the finance director. We have the same thing for the director of emergency management. Yeah, do I know that they work an extra 5 hours every week? Yes, I understand that, but for salary, you've made it that way. And that's the only thing that I can really compare to. So these are what we're doing on our side. But on the elected side, these two are $7,000 or thereabouts below that. And you look at some of the other assistants, I don't think they all should be equal to look at what they're doing. But again, those two individuals, if something happens to the county treasurer, the chief deputy is going to have to step into that role until the process puts somebody else in that role. And it's not a process of going out for an election. You may do one if it happened in year 1, and you had to wait till the next regular election, you could do something, but somebody else does that appointment. So that's my only rationale that I could give to you, and I looked at what we're doing on this side and what's happening over here on the elected and the mandated and the contracted. We don't have a whole lot of say, we don't have any say, thank goodness, in who they appoint, but we do have a say in people's salaries, and so that's where I left it. That's what I've recommended to you. And I just, I said, I'm trying to make sure I can equate it in a fair and a reasonable way of what we are doing now with some of our other positions. And I'm not saying they may not be more somewhere down the road. I don't know. But right now, those were the two obvious ones in front of me right now. So that's my recommendation. It's the only thing I can get to you. So. Did that help, sir?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was looking at Mr. O'Rourke there, so.
Yes, Commissioner Rourke.
Well, we asked Mr. Lewis to look into it. He's professional, he's completely independent. Call the vote.
I'll support that.
So, okay, let's vote on the motion to call the question. All those in support of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Let me catch up to you here for a second.
I'm calling the question.
Yeah, I don't really think you need a roll call. I believe I was the only one who voted no, because I think we have to have more discussion on this item.
Well, I think you have to have if someone votes no, I have to go to the clerk. Would this call for a roll call vote based upon the question?
No, they just stopped,
Okay.
what they did was stop discussion on it.
That's right.
So was there one vote against calling the question? Okay. Then would you do a roll call vote of the motion?
Of the original motion, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
With
One by-
with the salary included.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
No.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
5-1.
Motion approved 5-0. Thank you.
5-1.
I think it's 5-1, isn't it?
Yes.
5-1.
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Alger.
I have felt for a very long time that
We get to comment some more.
most of our people are
I think
underpaid.
we're good.
I think I'm breaking the rules. You'll have to do that during commissioner comment.
Oh, no, I think we should have a lot more.
Yeah, I
comments
think.
right now.
Okay, that's
we
fine.
called the
I'll
question.
We
just
did
do
call
it
the
during.
question, yeah.
That's a good idea, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you. Audit services, let's move quickly on to audit services.
Yes.
Okay.
Another fun one. As I mentioned last week, we are out for bids on a request for a proposal for auditing services for the years ending 24, 25, 26, and 27. At the same time, you have requested that we get a quote regarding continuing with the services of Raymond Robson for 1 year to undertake our audit. As I mentioned last week, as I got to thinking about this, I felt like that we were putting, by going through this process of one or the other, that we are going through both of them at the same time. We were putting the county into a situation which I don't think in the long term is going to look favorable on us, especially if we're asking vendors, and I know of at least 3 different vendors that have put forth questions to us, which on 2 of them, I said, we have some discussions we have to have. I didn't say why, but we wouldn't be able to respond to the questions till tomorrow. I don't want these folks to go through a process and then all of a sudden we decide we just want to go ahead. I don't know what their bids would be like, but I don't want to come in here and all of a sudden, well, we're going to stay with Raymond Robson for 1 more year, as requested by our finance director, in which I'm going to recommend that we do so. But it's a 1 year only, and also what I learned talking to one of the individuals is that sometimes we might have started a little late on getting our RFP out, that we should have had this out in June, because a lot of these firms are gearing up to get their staff put together to start with the yearly audits that they have to do every year. It's not saying that we wouldn't get a good audit or a good auditor, but those are things that, you have to take into consideration. I feel more inclined that waiting until we receive the bids and then going back and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and take Raymond. I feel like we would be doing a disservice to the county, because next year when we go out for bids, we may not get folks that saying, well, last year, we did all this work and all of a sudden, that they didn't even consider us. And yes, I understand the cost of doing business. If it was just doing bids or the RFPs, I would agree with you. That's the cost of doing business. But we've asked for a specific price, and these folks may not even be bidding on it for this year. It'd be one thing if they were going to put a bid in, but I don't even know they're doing it. So that's where I'm at. It's up to you which way you want to go. So,
Commissioner Rush?
I would rather you do the one or the other, but don't leave them both hanging in there until the end. That's all I can say.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the proposal from Raymond Robson for a 1-year extension of the current agreement for auditing services. Are these amounts correct?
Yes.
Okay, in the amount of $85,000?
No, I think it should be 84,000.
69 and 15.
Huh?
69 and 15 is 84, yep.
Yeah, okay, 85,000.
84,000.
84,000, financial and single audit if needed,
Which it will be needed.
of Leelanau County for the year ended 12/31/24. 69,000. I'm getting confused here now.
That's just a breakdown of what totals
Okay.
the 84,000.
And financial audit of Leelanau County Road Commission for the year ended 12/31/2024 for $15,000.
Yeah.
That's really wordy.
Support for that motion?
Support?
Discussion. The question, maybe this is for Kathy, do we ever pass that $15,000 charge of the road commission onto the road commission?
We do not. They're a component of us, and this lends itself to making sure that we have consistency in our records.
Thank you.
Because I asked the same question sometime back, and she said, they only have to do their audits every other year. We want to know what's going on every year,
We
so
need
it's
to know.
included in our books.
Any further discussion?
I support this because we have been going through a transition. And it is helpful to have someone who knows our system and our books while we're in this transition.
I support it because our finance director has
Yeah, 'cause she wants
recommended it. Any other discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-1. We now down are into the veteran service contract. Is that with you, Kathy? Or is that you, Richard?
No, it's county administrator search. You missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. The only thing is that we're going through this. Last week, we touched base on it. We didn't really take a vote on it. You did move it forward. But we're asking you to adopt the motion that the job description that was revised be approved, as well as the salary range, which is the same as it was the last time. So the motion I have, I don't know if Kathy wrote the same last week, was to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the county administrative job description dated September 4th, 2024, and the salary range for the county administrator position to be $110,000 to $140,000.
There was some additional language on there.
What?
And authorize the clerk
And
and
authorize the
administrator to
clerk.
work with Mr. Janik on a contract extension for the search.
Okay. To work with what?
Chair, Commissioner
Is that an
Rexroth.
official motion, Melinda?
Yes.
Okay. Is there support for that?
Support
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
with the full wording, right, Melinda?
Correct.
Commissioner
I
Rush?
did have a chance to go through the job description quite thoroughly, and there are just some errors in
Well,
grammar,
sure.
and so that will be taken care of.
Yes,
Correct
it
this.
will.
If we're
I-
offering $100,000 to $140,000, I'd really like that to be
Okay.
cleaned up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I understand, I do have this in front of our attorneys. I don't think anything of substance is going to change. There may be a couple extra, okay, and have some knowledge of this, but I don't think anything of substance will change because it's pretty close to what was out there before, just leaving out CFO stuff, so.
So the motion is to approve the job description and salary range and authorize the clerk and the administrator to work with Mr. Janik on the search. Any further discussion? All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 6-0. Now we're down to the veteran service contract. Kathy?
In your budget book, when you get into it, you'll see that the Veteran Services contract expires this year with Grand Forks County. We've asked our attorney, School Stoker, to draft a proposed contract for going forward.
Am I on the right item?
Wait a minute. I forgot, this is a waiver, and not being 100% sure whether I can sign the waiver, we just added it to the contract, but the attorney's working for both parties, and so that's what this is for. And they're putting together the contract.
Commissioner Leonard?
So I move that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners authorize the interim administrator, Richard I. Lewis, sign the waiver of conflict and consent to representation regarding an agreement for veteran services.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 6-0.
Kathy, I apologize for that, I was having a senior moment, so there you go.
I was headed there.
Okay.
Didn't want to get there, Richard.
Action item 3E, a joint meeting request with Grand Traverse County.
Okay. As I shared with you last week in a memo, is that the Northwest Regional Airport Authority would like to have a joint meeting between Leelanau County and Grand Traverse County regarding the expansion of the airport terminal and the possibility of issuing debt to undertake that project. By the agreement that both counties have, the counties do have to move forward and permitting that debt to be taken. There is no financial obligation on behalf of Leelanau County. They are discussing with Grand Traverse County to ask the full faith and credit of Grand Traverse County to be used to issue the debt, because the airport has a slight problem. They don't have any debt. And because they don't have any debt, the bond people out there are kind of going, oh, this is kind of weird, so they're going to get a higher rating than if they can go down here. The airport doesn't have any debt. They've done well. So it was recommended between Nate and myself when we met with him that it'd be better if we can all be together, both boards. So that way, Mr. Klein and company aren't here saying one thing here and getting questions. This way we hear it all at once, be done with it, give our approvals the next day or a couple of weeks later, and they can move forward. So it'll be 4 o'clock on the afternoon of October 3 o'clock on the afternoon of October the 14th, and it'll be at the airport. So,
Commissioner O'Rourke, you want to make that motion?
I had it right down there. Move to approve a joint special meeting, Leelanau County Board of Commissioners with the Grand Traverse County Commission on Monday, October 14th, 2024 at 3 p.m. at the Northwest Regional Airport Authority Executive Office, which is upstairs, to review the terminal expansion project and bond.
Support.
Any comments or discussion?
When you get there, bring your slips in and we will validate your slips for parking.
And you have 2 meetings for budget.
I have 3 meetings
3.
between now and then, sir.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 6-0. We now have your big book.
I know this is the moment y'all have been waiting for. And let's do a drum roll. Kathy, thank you. I want to give high kudos to Kathy. I mean, she has been on this, she's been on this for the last month, getting this in shape and in a position to whereby we are now ready to go through this. We had conversations of different things to look at, but she, and working with staff as well as working with the treasurer and the clerk's office, and a couple of meetings to make sure we cross some T's and I's to get it to this position. I'm not going to tell you that everything in here is perfect, but it's in a shape that we can start. So Kathy, thank you for your efforts, in getting this done. Our first session will be hopefully next Tuesday morning. As you open your book and you look inside the flap there, we have some papers in there for you. But as I understand the process in the past, it's you, the commission, that decides on a lot of these meetings what parts do you want to cover, don't want to cover for the next meeting. But we would like for the first meeting next week to go through about four basic items. One is we want to give you a general overview, and it's going to be a very high overview. We're not going to get into the weeds on different things. But what we really want to do is to go over the capital outlay and budget worksheet that's in your packet. There's a lot of stuff in here, but there's also items in here such as the requests from the Village of Sutton's Bay, and as well as the Traverse Area District Library, to go through those items. We have some items in here about personnel, some increases there, but you can see there's a lot of items through here. And through that, we're going to let you know of at least 3 items at that point of what we want to apply for a tribal 2% grant on. One of them is the parks. And we'll let you know after I've had the opportunity to talk to a certain department head that what we're going to do, so I don't surprise them first. We also want to talk about some suggested positions. They're down there at the bottom of the page of 3 possible expansions of staff. We want to go through that with you and get your feedback. We also want to, I already talked about the outside request. Now, I think as we get through all these, we may have a pretty good section of what we want to do or not want to do. And we'll also go through some of the transfers, like part of the highlights. But then from that, I want you to think about what is it that you want to go into next. I mean, we'll let you lead us, and we'll be prepared for it the following week to help address that and work through it with you. But instead of waiting, I thought we'd go through this first, and then as you go through your booklets, you can say, I'd like to talk about this and whatever. Now, you don't have to wait for the meeting. If you're getting in here, you've got questions, just send them to us, and we'll do away. And of course, if you send us a question, everybody's going to get the same equal response. So you don't have to wait, and we'll do our best to get the answers to you. So this is where we are. This book is open. We all have a book here, I think, that's here for anyone that wants to review it. We have one here that's in our office, right?
There'll be a book for the public to view in a physical book in the administrator's office. Lauren will have it on the projector there. And then if the public will just give me a day to get it online. I didn't put it online because I just wanted ahead of you receiving it. It will be available online as well.
So we take it from there. But again, looking forward to this. There's a lot of line items in there. I hope that you won't get too worried about looking at the small widgets. And try to look at those big pictures, such as like in the parks, which I've worked on that budget. I have made an increase in the maintenance line item. Again, just because we budget it doesn't mean it's going to get spent. But if it needs to be done, then we at least have resources to do that. But we're ready for a healthy discussion. You see your calendar that we have here, that we will be holding a public hearing on the budget on, let's see here, what is it? On 7/15 on November the 19th. And after that, if you would like to adopt your budget, you can. So we're trying to get this completed before you go through the county administrator search. So get one thing out of the way before you get to the next item. So take it from there. Yes, ma'am.
So in yellow here on the first page, it says proposed work session dates. Have those been confirmed?
Well, those are what we're recommending to you. As far as we're ready to go, if you're ready, so.
These are the same dates I think you had on that.
We had last week. We haven't changed them. We may not need all 5, but we'll go through them as we go through them. I think Kathy and I felt like that on October the 10th, depending how long your executive session goes, we may not want to go as long as that. So it all depends on how you're feeling at that point. So, well, we'll just go with the flow and get where we can be. So. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of taking over here.
Go ahead.
Do you have a facilities manager in here somewhere?
It's in well, it's not there. You've already approved that position. It's in your budget. It's all been budgeted into there. In fact, if you can see that that's part of our staffing levels.
Okay.
But 25% of that time going into parks management.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just may have a couple of those Tuesdays after leaving at 11:45, 11:30 as they go to noon, but I have a standing management meeting.
Okay. Only agreement, I know there's going to be times that all of you can't make it, we'll go through it. If there's something you missed, we'll either arrange that you come by and have a conversation with me, share your concerns, we'll go through that portion of it with you and get your questions, and we'll repeat them back out, or we'll fill you in what took place. So we'll try to keep you in the loop as best as we can. So do not be afraid to come by. This coffee's pretty good here. It's not bad. I mean, you can stop by if we have to. We'll buy scones if you're going to come by. That'll help you come by and meet with us. So that's fine. So.
And if you can't make a meeting, please let the administrator's office know so that we make sure there's going to be a critical mass here.
But we'll also make sure that whatever was covered in some thoughts, we'll try to take good notes and share them with everybody. So remember, nothing is final until you vote it final. I'm saying you 6. All we can do is explain it, how we got to where we are. So we'll do our best. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? I think we don't need a motion, but we need applause for the finance director, I think.
That would be.
I think I shared with this before. The administrator or the manager, whoever, if they don't have trust in their finance person, you got bigger problems. I've got all the trust in the world in her to get it done, so. I have no concerns at this point, so. She hasn't given me any reason to have any either. She yells at me a lot, but that's okay.
We now have review of financials. Any questions for Kathy?
No. The late additions is 39,777.
I did put a new total sheet on your desk. Because we had a transposition of
The numbers.
93 to 39.
Yes.
So the number actually is on your desk. We didn't change the things in accounts detail, but it should be 93.
Should be 93. Oh, in here it was 90, or 39.
Right.
Those were transposed. Okay, that was.
If you would approve the mathematically correct figure,
93,
that would be
okay.
very helpful. And I did want to just add that I really appreciated the roundtable discussions to get you ready for this portion of your budget process. Working with Richard and Michelle Tucker and Jen from afar and Sarah Lautner and John, it helped a great deal because last year I was not involved in a great deal of that process. And so I really appreciated their help and assistance. It was very valuable to me. And the work session dates that are on the calendar here, we did also take into account that we have a finite block of time available for this room because early voting starts in what day?
End of October, last
So
Saturday.
we are bound a little bit. I think it's very important that we have our meetings in this room so that people can join us and we don't relocate. And so again, a finite amount of time will be laser focused and as Richard said, get this done.
Thank you.
Thank you for I had some questions pre-meeting. Thank you, Kathy, for answering those.
Any special reports?
I've got one.
Okay.
On your desk, and this will be coming up to you, take it home, kind of give a review, is a memo from me regarding the Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative called TTCI. And in here, we have some we need to be appointing some folks to both the policy committee as well as the technical committee. We have there are 3 more meetings remaining this year. I found out going through the research that I'm already on the policy committee. One of the things you may want to consider is that when you go through all this and you look at it, you'll see that for the policy committee, it's mostly the folks from the elected side that are sitting on that committee and staff side sits on the technical committee. It's up to you whether you want to appoint one of yourselves to be on the policy committee. You won't meet until November. But I have all 3 of the remaining meetings, both technical committees as well as the other meeting on my schedule to attend because I understand there's some decisions that are going to be made. Of course, the only areas that are covered under this committee are Elmwood and Bingham Township. The rest of the county is not. So, it's up to you. But if you want to make some different changes, I've let the administration of this group know that we'll be talking about this in October. We may have some changes that we're going to be sending their way so that the rest of the meetings for the remainder of this year is complete. And then during the organizational meeting of next January, then they can make different changes however they want to do, whatever that board would like to do at that time. But I wanted to give you a heads up to it all, and you can read through it. Excuse me. I was fairly interested in the public input process that they are drafting to go through when you get down that road. But anyway, it's pretty interesting. So I remember when we were going through it back on the city side, it was a lot of trust is built into this that it'll be done fairly. MSU is calling. That's my granddaughter from MSU. She wants to talk to her friend. So.
Any questions on the policy board and technical committee? Okay, more of that next month.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other special reports? We're now down to our second public comment opportunity. We would invite anybody that would like to speak to us to raise your hand, and we'll call on you, and you can speak for 3 minutes about anything you think we need to hear. 5 minutes, yeah. You're at a disadvantage, Ms. Alcocker, if you don't bring your hearing aids to the meeting, because it's hard to process things.
And who offered you a friendly reminder today?
5 minutes for public comment. Anybody like to?
And I've been listening. I kind of give them clues. I've been passing notes here so long.
Mr. Molesky has raised his hand, so apparently you need your eyeglasses checked as well as your hearing aids.
Steve, would you like to come forward, please? Thank you.
Good evening. As an ordinary taxpayer, we are somewhat perplexed and confused as to this, what I would call salary bingo. It seems that whenever somebody has an idea of salaries, we just tell them to change it. Just go ahead and change it. Or someone has a complaint. So I think we should expect that these things will be going on. It's also the mission of perhaps in disclosure or declaration that all boards before are actually close to doing everything in it. It's such a massive increase. Something is the mystery. Another matter, I picked up a document 14 years ago. Board member due diligence and duties. Due diligence, also known as due care, is the effort made by ordinary, prudent, or reasonable party to avoid harm to another party or himself. Failure to make this effort is considered negligence. Generally, due diligence refers to a care a reasonable person should take before entering into arrangements. Due diligence is essentially a way of preventing unnecessary harm. For example, due diligence would be necessary research and analysis of a board undertaken in preparation for making a decision. Black's Law Dictionary, which is usually authority as an authority. Due diligence says such a measure of prudence, activity, or assiduity as is properly to be expected from and ordinarily exercised by a reasonable and prudent man under particular circumstances, not measured by any absolute standard, but depending on the relative facts of the special case. Board members must also maintain certain fiduciary responsibilities. We'll give you a copy of this complete two-page document, but that raises the question again, as I review this, my request that the commission has failed and must, before year end, prepare an apology resolution to the taxpayers and to the clerk and for financial respect. Because if you read this document, something was amiss going all the way back to May 11, 2021. Particularly when it was admitted throughout the process there was no plan or no plan taking place. And the clerk, before that motion, was never even talked or discussed. In fact, it was done in such a manner so that she was not absent when that occurred. So again, I make my request, because we have now wasted $1 million on it. We've gone full circle, from having an administrator to duality, administrator and finance, and now we're back to administrator. $1 million to go on. Are we proud of that? So I make my request again, please prepare an apology before we end. so you can meet with some kind of honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Any other public comment? Want to thank you for coming this evening. Any commissioner comment? Commissioner Olga?
Oh, yeah. You know, the wage issue is tough. We have talked about doing a wage study on this commission for several years, but we've never wanted to pay for it because it's expensive to do a wage study. That would be fair, but we've had other things we had to pay for. So we have not done that. Meanwhile, we struggle with wages that were never set according to, what we keep hearing is, well, they were just kind of set years and years ago and we just keep going with it. And we know there are people who are badly underpaid. So then we struggle to hire competent people or people who depend on this salary to live, especially in this very expensive county. So it is a difficult, difficult issue. There are adjustments that still need to be made. I will state again that the starting salary for senior services needs to be adjusted. It is now below the deputy clerk for a starting salary, and that's a department head. So some changes have to be made. It is really difficult. But our people are the most important asset this county has. The people who work for this county work hard. They are dedicated. They make our service to all of you work. And we need to respect them and their needs and their ability to make a living now and in the future. So this issue just does not go away, and there will have to be further adjustments made, as difficult as that is.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Roy?
I'd like to thank Lieutenant Roush. This morning I attended the annual or biannual firearms qualification down at the Solon Range. It was very professional and as much military as you really want to get with it. I mean, but he does a fine job and there was no mistakes. So it was good to see all the guys shoot that well. Thank you.
I would just like to reiterate, Administrator Lewis mentioned the Parks to survey. Our parks are a huge asset to the county too. And I really feel like this is an opportunity that we need to hear from so many people. So if you can help spread the word within your community to fill out, it's less than 5 minutes. But let us hear from you so that we make sure that we make the improvements, put our budget, our very small budget, to the best possible use. And we need to know what you think. So I don't know if there's a deadline on that though. I think end of the month, so a couple of weeks.
Is there a place for people to make comments or suggestions?
Yes.
Yeah,
Good,
at the end of the survey, correct.
good.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Lautner?
Yeah, I was reminded of where I was on September 11th, when you mentioned September 11th, and we should keep in mind. And the clerk will remember, we were in the old law library during an executive meeting. And our treasurer at the time, Vicki Kilway, told us, came down and told us, that what had happened. And I remember Bob Heiser was sitting on my left, and he said Osama bin Laden, and Of course, he was from Glen Arbor. Anyway, that was where we were back down in Leland, and so we must never forget that. I think we made a gigantic error tonight on these wages. I am still very unclear even to why this even came up mid-year, other than I heard promises were made. I went back and looked for any promises made, and all I could find is that the administrator was asked to review it. I couldn't find anywhere where these promises were made in public, and so this greatly alarms me. We just gave nearly an 11% increase to 2 employees, and based on what? After they just had gigantic pay raises a couple years ago. But I can see that this is our way of doing business, so all were invited to now step forward based on this and ask for increases if they feel like they're not being compensated, because this seems to be our new MO. I'm greatly concerned about it. I was not aware that we had incompetent employees, and I guess we should find out who those are, because that also greatly concerns me if we haven't been able to lure to this county competent employees. A couple of years ago, our prosecutor came to us and asked us to give his assistant prosecutor a gigantic raise. And I cautioned and begged and pleaded this board not to do it. Our prosecutor's reason was that he was doing all the work and that he couldn't afford to live in this county. Now we're in 2024. Don't know if he's still doing all the work, but he still does not live in this county, yet we gave him a gigantic pay raise. So based on what I heard tonight, that if all of our deputies step in place of their elected officials, should something happen, then it sounds to me like they all should be paid the same. And perhaps that's what we should have done. Raised them all up, made them all the same. So I think that that's what we should be looking at in the next month. Maybe that would take care of this problem, because if there are many inequities, this is just going to be something that this board is doing every single month based on this new MO. I've never seen anything like it. And I can't say much more about how this disturbs me and greatly concerns me. We do not have bottomless pits when money comes here. We do not, and this county is going to be in trouble if this board continues to spend the money at the rate it's spending money, and based on what, I don't see the validity of it, and that's all.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Please do not, please, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay. We're now down to approval of financials. You're on a roll, Commissioner Lauder.
Yes, I am. I would move to recommend claims and accounts $338,683.85.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
I would move to approve post audit $7,671,535.22.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
One more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Motion.
No.
Just make sure you take